Now, let's go ahead and join Debbie Gilbert. She is the, Colbert, excuse me. She is the director of ODFW, and it turns out she's actually out fishing this morning. So, Ryan, just make sure I'm okay. But, Debbie, can you hear us all right?
I sure can. Hey, Owen, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to hear from you. First things first, though, I got to ask, how's the fishing this morning, and where are you actually at?
We went out of Newport this morning, and we're doing really good. I've already landed 3 black rockfish.
Nice.
My husband is unhooking his second, so it's been good fishing so far this morning.
Now, is that the plan for the day, Debbie, is just to chase bottom fishing and do any salmon fishing, or is that the target species for today?
Yeah, I think we're going to just do bottom fish. We did put in a couple crab pots on our way out,
oh,
so
nice.
We'll also swing back to those. So, but it's a pretty awesome day out.
Yeah, well, that's great. You're taking advantage of some of the resources that you do manage, and we appreciate you spending some time talking with us this morning. As we've already mentioned, Debbie, you may have heard over the phone, we've got Tucker Jones here in the studio. I'm sure you've met Tucker. But we're going to talk about what's going on currently with the BPA wanting to pause or stop funding for some of the safe zones in the lower Columbia River. This is a great opportunity, though. Folks want to hear from you. What's your take on what's kind of happening here with the BPA?
Well, I got to tell you, for me, it's really a head scratcher. It makes absolutely no sense, and I really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to be on the show today to talk about this. We found out about a month ago, unexpectedly, that BPA had decided to terminate basically the funding for our SAFE program. And as you know, that's a program that's kind of jointly operated by ODFW, Washington Fish and Wildlife, and Clatsop County. And our current grant runs out at the end of September. We've got something like 7 million fish kind of in the queue, our spring Chinook and coho. And if we do not get a reversal of BPA's decision here quickly, you know, all of those fish are at risk and the future of the program. And so we're really just trying to help people understand what's going on and how they might kind of weigh in and see if we can't get BPA to revisit this decision.
I think revisit is a very good way to put it. It's a better way to put it than I would actually put it, Debbie. I can guarantee you that one. So, as the director of ODFW, you mentioned that this was a head scratcher for you. It came out of the blue. A month ago, they decided that they're going to send you a letter. From your perspective, you're up at you can't get any higher than yourself, Debbie. You know this. What is something that you might say would be a reasoning for this, or is there even anything that you can kind of attach to that?
Well, you know, we've met with BPA, and the sense that I got from them is that they see this entirely as a harvest program, and that they do not feel that they are responsible for mitigating harvest impacts from the dams. Of course, we completely disagree with them. We think that this SAFE program is providing opportunity for commercial and recreational anglers, but it has conservation benefits for listed fish that are in the system. So it really makes no sense. It is a program that for 30 years has been funded by BPA, consistently supported by the Northwest Power and Conservation Council as a primary way to mitigate for the impacts of the dams. So that's why, honestly, I can't even understand why they would make this kind of decision at this point.
Now, real quickly, Debbie, this is the last question that we have time for with you this morning. First thing, again, thank you for spending some time sharing your insight on this. I know that a lot of my viewers that are watching at home are very curious on what's going on with this decision that the BPA has come out with, right? But I know their question is going to be the same as mine. Don't they have some sort of legal obligation based on what's gone on with the dams over the last 100 years to actually do this? Can they really get away with just saying that we don't want to fund it anymore?
We would like to think that they can't. They are asserting that they get to decide what is consistent with the Power Act, and we completely disagree with them on their interpretation. And the fact that our council has recommended this for funding, I think substantiates our position that we, as Fish and Wildlife managers in the basin, think that this is an appropriate form of mitigation, and that's why BPA has been funding it for 3 decades. It makes absolutely no sense, and it makes no sense why now.
Really, I'm sorry to interrupt you there. It just is. It's a head scratcher. It makes very little sense, and it just is so frustrating. I know that it is for you, Debbie. You're in the middle of this every single day. It's just crazy how these things can just come out of the blue, right? There's so many things going on that can be worked on, and for something so small, the BPA is making such a big wave. And it's just going to be negative for them, I think, in the long run, but we'll see how it all plays out. Debbie, as always, though, thank you for spending a few minutes with us. And my doors here at the GPS studios are open for you at any time, okay?
Hey, thank you so much. And really, again, appreciate you letting us come and talk about this. It's so important for our sport fish folks. This is a really important source of opportunity in the ocean and in the lower Columbia. So just really appreciate you letting us talk about it, Owen.
Absolutely, and we appreciate you spending some time while you're actually out having some fun over the weekend. We appreciate it, Debbie. Be safe out there, and we'll look forward to talking with you soon in the future.
Sounds great.
All right, everyone, we're going to cut to a quick break. We're going to continue this topic of what is going on with the BPA. Just so you know, hey, you know what? Let's just forget about funding these safe zones. Let's just forget about the 7 million fish that are currently sitting in what they would call the queue. I'd call them in the hatchery. Let's just forget about that. No big deal. It's a big deal, and it's probably going to become even bigger deal for BPA. We'll be back with Tucker Jones in just a second.
Outdoor GPS is sponsored by Hawken Fishing, Perfection in Fishing Gear, Ocean, and the Saltwater Sport Fishing Show, and by Haxton's Canvas and Upholstery, the trusted name of the Pacific Northwest.
Now,
welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, sponsored by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor.
welcome back, everyone. Joined in studio by Mr. Tucker Jones. He is the Columbia River Program Manager, and you have been for quite a few years, haven't you?
Yeah, coming up on 11, I think, at this point in time.
11 years. Well, first things first, it's nice to see you. Nice to meet you here in the studio for the first time. That's very nice of you.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on. We just talked with Debbie, as you know, you were here, although you couldn't hear it. But at the very least, we had a chance to just kind of tee this off, right? Talk about what the BPA is actually trying to accomplish, and maybe roadmap us a little bit on how we got here.
Yeah. Well, the SAFE program has got a long history, right? They've been funding it for over 30 years.
That's how long the safe zones have been around.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they've been around for a long time.
There's a lot of people that actually thought that this all started in 2012 when everything went down with the Columbia River stuff. You know, we don't need to get sidetracked there. But it's been going on a lot longer than that.
Yeah, a lot longer. It's been an important harvest mitigation and conservation program going back to the early 90s. So, and then, you know, they let us know via letter, no phone calls, no conversations ahead of time, via a letter on June 18th that they were going to stop funding the program effective September 30. So barely 3 months of notice that they were going to terminate funding for, you know, almost 9.5 million smolts released, with about 7 million currently in the hatcheries set to go. So without funding, we don't have any way to feed those fish or care for those fish. It's putting a lot of risk on those fish. Those safe fish, you know, it's designed, as I think you know, right, for commercial harvest, but actually about a third of all the safe fish that are harvested are caught by recreational anglers.
That's a huge number. In the end, a third, that's a big number of fish.
Yeah, that's a big number of fish. And it, you know, those benefit ocean fisheries, they benefit, you know, lower river commercial fisheries. You know, we have spring chinook and coho coming back, so that's a big piece of buoy 10 catch. Recreation anglers catch them in the select areas and in the tributaries. Really, it's just, you know, it is an incredibly important program for both commercial and recreational anglers. These support, you know, living wage jobs in the lower river. They support, you know, recreational fisheries.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to understate the importance of these fisheries, really.
And I don't really, half of me wants to ask the question, what happens when it does ultimately go away? That's not a road I want to walk down. In the end, I think if we can make enough noise, and I think we've seen this over the years with BPA in a number of different zones, right, in a number of different ways. They'll come out and say, we're going to do this, and then they get a massive pushback, and then they back off, and they're like, okay, let's just see how far we can actually take this to try to get out of it. In the end, we're not talking about a ton of money here. The BPA makes billions of dollars. You can search that yourself. I did that in 5 minutes, and I'm an idiot on these things. Billions. Why would they want to draw, if you can even have an idea on it, why would they draw this kind of heat to themselves over such a small amount of money?
I don't know. You're right, it's $2.3 million for the total funding to ODFW, Clatsop County Fisheries, and WDFW. So it's not a big chunk of money in the overall picture. And honestly, it's hard for us to know why they decided. I mean, they gave us some reasons. They said it wasn't meeting its conservation mandates. Well, first of all, it was never intended as a conservation, first program, right?
Sure.
It's harvest mitigation,
Yeah.
Which Bonneville also says they don't have a responsibility for, but there would be more fish in the river for everybody to catch, commercial fisheries and recreational anglers, if those dams weren't in place. So they absolutely...
On the snake.
Yeah, well, not just the snake, but the Columbia River dams.
Sure.
They all impact fish. So there will be absolutely more fish on the river if the dams weren't in place.
Sure.
Second of all, it actually does have a conservation benefit, right? By if we think about spring fisheries, by concentrating commercial effort in the off-channel areas, that's a selective fishery, right? You can do selective fisheries either by catch and release, mark selective sort of fisheries, or you can do time, area, and gear. And so that strategy, the commercial fisheries focused in these off-channel areas, and recreational fisheries, focused on mark selective fisheries in the spring, that sort of selective approach, combined with our overall management approach, means that we are always under our ESA impacts. We do a pretty good job of catching how many fish we can catch, but we're always under our ESA impacts.
Sure.
And if we were to move those commercial impacts back into the river, we'd need more fish than are available to do that, right? And so it is absolutely has a conservation benefit, and it is absolutely a harvest mitigation program for which they are 100% responsible.
It sounds to me, and maybe this is the obvious, or maybe I'm just pointing out common sense here. The commercial fleet has got to be just as upset about this as the recreational fleet, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, there is broad support for getting this decision pushed back on. The commercial industry, fish processors, commercial fishermen, but also recreational groups are, like I said, because so many of these fish are also caught by recreational anglers.
Sure.
So CCA, NSIA, the Northwest Steelheaders, American Sport Fishing Association are all, engaged in trying to push back on this. It's a huge deal, and it's very problematic.
Yeah, again, coming from that angle of the commercial fleet and the safe zones for spring Chinook in particular, they've caught more fish in these safe zones than they were ever intended to do. They make more money now than they ever have because of these safe zones. You remove these things, you're talking about industries, let alone recreational. Of course, we get that way. We talk about that. This is why GPS exists, right? We have a recreational fleet. This could be a very good opportunity for these two groups to come together a little bit, maybe talk to each other a little bit more on a nice level, and really try to get this thing pushed back, because this is going to affect everyone. And like you said, it supplies jobs for countless folks, Clatskanie area, all throughout that lower Columbia River system. I mean, this is, we might say that it's not a lot of money. In the end, that's a lot of money. But to the BPA, it doesn't mean anything. You're talking less than a drop in the bucket for these folks. It's just really curious to me why they would want to have so much blowback for no reason. Companies like this, businesses like the BPA, they spend more on damage control than they would on this particular program. And it really kind of leans towards, this is my own personal opinion, not ODFW's or that of Gray Media. Why? I mean, what is it that they're trying to do? Are they just getting lazy? It's just one of these things that just makes, again, like Debbie mentioned, scratch your head. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more. You can see here, we've got some of the areas that would potentially be completely closed. That would be the hatcheries, but the whole zone that's going to be affected by this. We'll be right back.
Outdoor GPS is sponsored by McMinnville Jeep Ram in the heart of Yamhill County, your home for Ram trucks. Experience the clear difference. Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, sponsored by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor.
Welcome back, everyone. Joined in studio by Mr. Tucker Jones. He is the director, Columbia River Programs Manager. We're talking about what is going on currently with the BPA. If you missed this last segment, you can rewind or you can check out the different clips on wherever Brian puts them. But this is a huge issue, something that even if you don't fish in the lower river or spend any time on the Columbia River at all, this is just something that could be a gateway to them doing more, trying to get out of having to mitigate for hatchery production for all of us, sport anglers and, of course, commercial fleet. This is a big deal for the commercials, as we mentioned in this past segment. Okay, so kind of walk us through what we're looking through here, Tucker.
Okay, so this is a map of the current select area fishery sites, the terminal fisheries, where, especially in the spring, but also for coho in the fall, that commercial fisheries are focused on. We have the Napa Slough, Blind Slough area, the Tongue Point area, and the biggest one is Young's Bay.
Right.
And without this funding, the net pens, which are the little red squares, those are probably going away. Those are operated by Clatsop County Fisheries, and the funding provides a huge chunk, more than 3/4 of their funds to be able to do this. We're going to probably have to close hatcheries. Nat Creek Hatchery, for sure. And then Claskenine Hatchery down here are also at risk without these funds. So Bonneville provides about 35 to 40% of the overall program funds, which are a mix of other federal funds, and then state dollars also go into this.
Sure.
But it's foundational funding. Without that key piece, right, we can't operate the net pens, we can't operate these hatcheries, and that is really problematic. Problematic to recreational anglers, problematic to commercial fishers. These sites also produce fish for southern resident killer whale forage.
Sure.
So this is a big problem. About 7 million spring chinook and coho are currently in production. That production will go away without some sort of fix on this. So really it's really problematic. And if Bonneville can walk away, if they can say that they don't have a responsibility for harvest mitigation, well, this is not the only harvest mitigation project in the river, right? There are other hatcheries upstream that are also harvest mitigation. And if they can just walk away from this with, barely 3 months of notice, does that mean that they also feel like they can walk away from those other hatchery programs?
It just seems like they're not interested.
Yeah, well, it's really problematic, that viewpoint, right? I mean, without the dams in the river, there would be a lot more fish for everyone to catch. Yeah, a lot, millions and millions. And so, we benefit from the cheap hydroelectric power from those dams, but in return, right, they have a responsibility, because fish are also an important, salmon and steelhead are a huge economic driver for the region. Just last year, right, the commercial fisheries down there and what they caught contributed about $6 million to the local economy, and that comes back to Oregon, and that's just the commercial piece of it.
Sure.
Right?
In the safe zones primarily.
Yeah, in the safe zones, right? So that's just the safe contribution to. So it's a big deal, that money is multiplied out. It goes to commercial fishermen. It goes to hotels. It goes to fish processors. It goes to guides. It it
Local
goes to
stores,
gas
gas
stations,
stations, right?
restaurants, yeah, everything.
Everything. And it's all tied together.
Yeah.
Years ago, there was an actual map or a pie chart that was put together on this. It starts with a B, the number of the amount of money that's brought into the region based on salmon fisheries. That one in particular was on recreational exclusively. But doesn't this actually contradict some of the presidential mandates that have been put out there?
It does. There is a presidential executive order on seafood competitiveness, right, where we're trying to maximize how much seafood we can produce from rivers and oceans. And this flies in the face of that presidential order. Right? And so I think we've said this before, there's broad support. Recreational anglers, commercial fishermen, seafood processors, the Northwest delegation, both Governor Ferguson and Kotek have written a joint letter
Wow.
To Bonneville asking them to reverse this decision. So everyone, I think, recognizes how important this project is. It's really, a little bit baffling. I think I saw a quote from Representative Javadi, who represents the North Coast, and I think he said something along the lines of, this may just sound like another long-named government project, but for people who live and work on the South Coast, it means fish to catch, it means jobs to work in, it means money in their bank account.
Yeah.
And that is, really that's the key take-home here, right? This is a huge deal to Oregon.
It's a huge deal, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because those are topics that have come up in a number of different fisheries, going all the way up to Columbia for rec side, for commercial side, how it impacts the region overall for opportunity or for, in this case, lack of opportunity. That's a whole other discussion. What are some of the things that some of the folks that are watching out there that might want to help in some way? I mean, obviously, you can't go and knock on the door of BPA and start yelling at them. Don't do that, okay? What are some of the things folks can do to get involved?
Well, we have a flyer on our Columbia River page that they can look at and get some key takeaways and facts on this. CCA and Keep American Fishing and American Sport Fishing Association have an action alert that you can go to. You can link on that and then send an email to the new Bonneville administrator, Travis Kavula, and ask him to reverse this decision also.
Right. You said new. This is curious to me. That's curious to me. A new guy is curious, very curious. I'm not a conspiracy theorist kind of dude, but you've heard me have a few over the years. First things first, man, I'm glad that you came in to try to get some of this insight out for everyone. Gives everybody a chance to meet you for the first time. He is right in the middle of all this every single day, managing the Columbia River, and I number one, I could never do what you do. An absolute difficult job. With dealing with things like this that just pop up out of nowhere, that can be so catastrophic, is something that anybody, no matter what business you're in, should have to deal with. So again, thank you for all the efforts that you put in, and those folks at ODFW, you guys do a fantastic job. This is not easy.
No, well, thank you for having me on. It's not easy, but the Columbia River, it's a pleasure and a point of pride for me because it means so much to so many people, fisheries. Millions. Yeah, and so it's not the easiest job, but it is a job that I love. I love being able to interact and interface with anglers from Astoria to Hermiston and everywhere in between. I grew up in north central Oregon. I grew up close to the river. I grew up fishing on the John Day. This is a passion project, really. Like, I love what I do. And we all appreciate that. And I love the anglers, and I love their passion for what they're doing. So.
Obviously, the rec fleet around here is pretty passionate about what we do. So I still reserve the right to give you a hard time when I think it's necessary. But that's a whole different time. It's a whole different time. We appreciate your time. Thank you. All right, everyone, we're going to cut to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what the benefits actually are of having these safe zones up and running at full speed. Bill Monroe Jr. was just out there experiencing it, and I will be happy to say that his limited out boat probably's got a few fish that came from these hatcheries. Probably pretty accurate. We'll be right back.
Outdoor GPS is sponsored by Yakima Bait, steeped in tradition, innovation, and fishing success. and by Procure Bait Sense, ruthlessly effective.